The Virgin Suicides, written by Jeffrey Eugenides. "What are you doing here, honey? You're not even old enough to know how bad life gets," said the doctor to Cecilia when she was in the hospital. "Obviously, doctor, you've never been a 13-year-old girl," said Cecilia in response to the doctor's question. The context of these quotes was when Cecilia was rushed to the Bon Secours hospital after her first suicide attempt, which was caused by slitting her wrist with her dad's razor. Cecilia's response to the doctor shows that it is not easy being a 13-year-old girl. She could possibly be going through hard things right then in her life, so that would be her motivation to attempt suicide, and that is why she felt it was okay to harm herself. Her psyche is definitely not the same as the doctor's because he clearly does not think that life could be hard for a 13-year-old girl. Paul Baldino, one of the high school boys who looked almost like a gangster, who was 14 years old, heard Peter Sisson's analysis on the house, and Peter Sisson said it was very feminine, so he wanted to go find things that are even more unthinkable about them. "I'm going to watch those girls taking their showers," said Paul Baldino to the neighborhood boys. This shows that his psyche is still very immature and nosy. Later on in the book, we learn that he has been exploring the sewer duct underneath his own basement, and that one time he realized that the pipes were big enough to fit him in them. Eventually, he came up through the sewer grate in the Lisbon's basement. He said once he was up there, he was yelling if anyone was home. No answer. So he went on the second floor and heard water running. So he went to the bathroom door and he told them how he had to step in. Saw Cecilia naked and her wrists bleeding, and so he ran down to call the police. That whole incident portrays Paul's psyche to be invasive and disrespectful. He felt the need to go into their house, and especially into the bathroom. The neighborhood boys quote, "He had to step in." Him stepping into the washroom was unnecessary. However, from the other quote, we knew that he wanted to see one of the girls naked, so he walked in because he knew that could have been a possibility. It was well known that Mr. and Mrs. Lipson didn't allow their daughters to date, and that Miss Lipson, in particular, disapproved of dances, proms, and the general expectation that teenagers should be able to paw one another in back seats, said the neighborhood boys. Trip came over one night and was stuck sitting beside Miss Lipson with Lux on the other side of her. They were all watching a Walt Disney special. During this time, he did not speak nor look at Lux. At 10 p.m., Miss Lipson sent her husband a cue to say that it was time to go up to bed. "Well, son, we usually hit the hay about now," said Mr. Lipson to Trip. When he shook her hand, he described it to be cold. She was barely looking at him as he made his way to the door. Miss Lipson also walked with her head down. When she opened the door, she gave him a sad smile. Later on, Lux snuck out to make out with Trip in a flannel nightgown in his car. The neighborhood boys never found out if Miss Lipson knew she snuck out. However, when Trip wanted to come over to sit on their couch again, Lux said she was grounded and that her mother had said that Trip cannot come over ever again. This reflects on Miss Lipson's culture and her beliefs because she said that Trip could never come over again to their house. Miss Lipson has strong beliefs towards her girls talking to males in the sense that she does not think it is appropriate. When Trip was over while they were watching their Walt Disney special, Lux put her feet up on the coffee table. Each time she put them up on the table, Miss Lipson hit them with a knitting needle, which made Lux put them immediately back under the table. When her mother hit her feet, Trip was looking at them, so it may have been possible that her mother did not want Trip seeing her feet because she did not agree that males should touch nor be near her girls. Also, she could be a neat freak and anal about people's feet being on her furniture. This reflects her culture because it demonstrates her beliefs and what values/morals she has. Miss Lipson played the more dominant role in the novel, whereas most times it is the male. She is like this because of her strong Catholic beliefs, so a feminist critic would look at it as a bad portrayal about how a woman should act. In other words, she is too conservative. A feminist critic would be looking for to see if women are given the same amount of freedom as the men. Since Miss Libson restricts her daughters so much, she is going against giving women freedom and same equal rights. Miss Libson never let them wear makeup, revealing clothes, hang out with males, and made Lux burn her rock albums. She also grounded Lux after she snuck out to make out with Trip Fountain. She took all the girls out of high school to lock them up in their house permanently because they need to recover from Cecilia's suicide. She did this because the night of homecoming, Lux came home well after midnight and had sex with Trip. Every time the girls are punished, it is because Miss Libson is not happy with what they did, never Mr. Libson. Clutching her good purse, she checked each daughter for signs of makeup before allowing her to get in the car, and it was not unusual for her to send Lux back inside to put on a less revealing top. This quote was describing how it was when the family was heading to church. Miss Libson was taking control of the situation, like always, making sure the girls are in check. The Libson girls went against their mother's strict expectations of them and took control of their own lives, for a change, when they killed themselves. When the neighborhood boys went into their basement one day, they found Bonnie dead hanging from a beam, Therese dead from sleeping pills, Lux dead from carbon monoxide poisoning in their garage, and Mary attempting suicide with her face in the oven. In society, children usually abide by their parents' rules. However, these girls took control and did what they've always wanted to do, which was to kill themselves. A feminist critic would say that she didn't use her power correctly, Miss Libson, because instead of having strong, good relationships with her daughters, she pushed them away and now only has Mary. They might also say that Miss Libson could have felt a sense of betrayal from her daughters, and that they have abandoned her because deep down she was just doing what she did for their best interests. She might have felt a sense of betrayal because all she was doing was taking care of her babies, which is a stereotypical trait towards women. For Today I Am a Boy, written by Kim Fu. Peter's father has always wanted a son, and now that he finally got one, he has certain expectations of him that he must meet. "And Peter, when you're finished," says his father to Adele, Helen, and Bonnie. "I don't think father likes you spending so much time with us," says Adele. "Why?" asks Peter. "He wants to spend time with you, because he wants you to be like him," Adele and Helen both said. "Big and strong like him," Adele added. The sisters know how the father has been wishing to have a boy, so he wants to be very close to Peter and wants him to show no characteristics of a female. This shows that his father's psyche is very strict on how males and females should act within society, and it would almost be a disgrace if Peter were to act like a female. Later on, Peter kept repeating that he is not a boy. "Father's going to hear him and we're all going to catch shit," said Helen in response to Peter's chanting. Helen said that because they are trying to protect him from their father. Peter does not feel right being in his body, so he does small things that normally a woman would do, like cooking, trying on makeup, trying on girls' wigs, having girls' clothes, having platform sandals, etc. "Helen, help! It won't come off. It won't come off. Dad will be home soon." This quote took place when Peter was trying on makeup and screamed at Helen for help because he did not know how to take it off. "I looked down at the dress I was wearing, an austere, long-hemmed thing that buttoned from top to bottom." This describes Peter's actions once Bonnie asked if what he was wearing was Helen's. Those two examples show that Peter did experiment with his sexuality. It also shows that his psyche is probably very confused and curious, and he might also feel sad in his body right now, and he might want to escape. When they first moved from Fort Michel, Ontario, the father told the wife to never speak to them in Cantonese, nor serve them any food from their culture. He wanted to westernize them completely. The mother did not agree to her husband's wishes, however, she followed them. A flash of pleasure passed over her face as she spoke the few words in Cantonese, then again when our number was called. "Say sup you 41. This took place while the mother was entering the restaurant where she was going to meet Peter and Bonnie. A flash of pleasure describes the look on the mother's face when she spoke Cantonese because at home she was restricted to speak it. A cultural critic may say she is feeling a sense of diaspora, so she would be feeling separated from her national territory, which would be China, and she could also be hoping to go back there someday, since she had moved from China and now is forbidden to do anything related to her culture. This next quote took place after Peter and his mother were sitting down together. "So, do you have a girlfriend?" asked the mother. "Yes," replied Peter. "Is she Chinese?" "No." "Your father will be pleased." His father will be pleased because, first off, it is a girl, not a boy since he wants to become a girl, and she is not Chinese. Peter not having a Chinese girlfriend will bring joy to the father since he is trying to westernize his children. Also, earlier on in the book, Peter mentions certain things that he has to live up to since he is a male, i.e., having a wife and children. His father had waited a long time to have a son, so now he has strong beliefs within his own culture that need to be met by Peter, so that also explains why his father will be pleased by this. A cultural critic would say that Peter is abiding by his father's culture, however, going against his own. When Peter is in his apartment in Montreal, he receives a package in the mail from Adele. When he opens it up, it's a wig. So he tries it on. "I tilted back my head like her, making the hair seem longer, making it fall away from my face." This is how Peter described himself as he was trying on the wig. "I used my hands to hold the hair up in a ponytail, then shook the ponytail so a few strands scattered loose around my face. I pouted. I let it down again. Earrings, I thought. Earrings and plucked eyebrows and bold lipstick." All of these quotes are when Peter was trying on the wig Adele sent him. A feminist would look at how Peter's gender is portrayed and how it should be played stereotypically. Peter is supposed to be playing the role of a male, however, is playing the role of a female at the same time. A feminist would say that Peter is not following the stereotypical characteristics of a male. Men do not usually have long hair, the wig, and are not supposed to imagine themselves wearing makeup, or in other words, they shouldn't be worrying about all the glamour that females do. "I put 3 big rocks at the other end of the field. Last guy there gets them all thrown at him," said Roger, a friend Peter hung out with during lunchtime along with Ollie and Lester. Peter was the last one to reach the other side of the field, so all the boys were ready with the rocks in their hands to throw at Peter. They all missed because he ended up dropping to the ground, so they all went over top of him. "Lie down on your stomach," said Roger. They started hitting him with rocks from above. "The last one landed on the ground by my ear, loud as thunder. Someone had aimed for my head," said Peter with fear. A feminist critic may say that these boys are immature and are reckless, which are characteristics that young boys tend to have. Also, the 3 boys are supposed to play the bullies in the book, which are usually young boys in books. Even though Peter is a male as well, the 3 boys are using their power, because they won the game, to force Peter to do what they say, stand there and get rocks thrown at him. Throughout their hangouts, it always came across that Peter was the odd one out. They also used their power of being a larger group to pick on him. A feminist critic might also say that it was odd Peter was not stronger, i.e., saying, "No, do not throw rocks at me," etc., because men are stereotypically supposed to be strong. Also, by Peter letting them take advantage of him, he was not standing up for himself, which could also relate back to women because stereotypically women are supposed to be weaker than men.